Top of the morning, everyone. Have anyone wondered what's my favorite real locomotives? Well, guess what? Today's the day. I've decided to do a top 10 best real locomotives ever. Why top 10? Honestly, the best locomotives are only 10. However, there will be many honorable mentions too. These types of trains are truly the best locomotives in the world, the pinnacle of machinery, the best vehicles around. Anyways, on with the countdown. In number 10, we have the Dorking Greystone Line Company number 1. Now, spoiler alert. Most of these engines will be real-life versions of characters from Thomas the Tank Engine. Thank you. Anyways, this engine, like in the Thomas version, it's known as a coffee pot engine, because like Edward said,
coffee pot is just a nickname for an engine with a boiler that points up in the air, like those things people make coffee in.
And that engine has a boiler that points in the air. The origins of this locomotive date back to when Head Wrightson's Standard Type 1 was designed. In reality, a standard factory locomotive was a rare beast, and in this instance 2 modifications were requested by the Dorking Greystone Company. In September 1960, Coffee Pot was repurchased by the then incarnation of its builders, Head Wrightson Teesdale Limited, and moved by road to Head Wrightson's works at Thornaby, Teesside. The little coffee pot fulfilled the simple task asked of it until 1952, before being withdrawn and left to fall into a derelict condition. I guess Glyn received the same issue, I'm afraid. Now in N degrees 09, we got the GWR 813 locomotive. This is actually my real OC's basis. However, since there's no engines like that, I'd no choice but to be a Percy ripoff. 813 is an 060 saddle tank locomotive built in 1900 by Hudswell Clark for the Port Talbot Railway Company, which later became part of the GWR. It subsequently saw service at Backworth Colliery in Northumberland. The locomotive is owned by the GWR 813 Preservation Fund. In number 08, we have the SR West Country and Battle of Britain classes. Now this might be Rebecca's basis, but, wow, that design is so cool it beats the LBSCR Billington E2S. The SR West Country and Battle of Britain classes, collectively known as Light Pacifics or informally as Spam Cans, are air-smoothed 462 Pacific steam locomotives designed for the Southern Railway by its chief mechanical engineer Oliver Bullitt. They used to be passenger engines, but after World War II, they became mixed traffic engines. In number 7, we got a massive pinnacle of the LMS steam engines. That's right, people. I'm talking about the LMS Stania Black 5. And yes, this is Henry's basis, but, by God, this is such a tremendous steam locomotive. The LMS Stania Class 5 is a type of 460 steam locomotive which was built between 1934 and 1951 with several variations. The locomotive is almost universally known as the Black 5, due to their black color scheme and their power class of 5 NT. 18 are preserved, with only about 2 or 3 operating steam excursions. In number 6, we have the Luna B12. Don't worry lads, it's not Alfred the Lone B12, this is just a regular B12. The Great Eastern Railway, GER, Class S69, also known as 1500 Class, and later classified B12 by the London and North Eastern Railway, LNER, is a class of 460 steam locomotive designed to haul express passenger trains from London Liverpool Street Station along the Great Eastern Main Line. In number 5, we got the SR Bullet Q1. This engine is just a steam engine with a diesel-looking design, and yes, this is Neville's real-life design. This locomotive is so cool that I couldn't make sure if the SR West Country and Battle of Britain classes was as good as this. It was built in 1942 by the Brighton Locomotive Works and the Ashford Locomotive Works for service in the British Royal Military during World War II as a special-duty mixed-traffic engine used and ordered by the Southern Railway. Now in number 4, we got the LBSCRA1X Terrier aka Stepney the Bluebell engine. Yes, the Stepney. The class has received several nicknames, initially being known as Routers by their South London crews. However, the engines were more famously known as Terriers on account of the distinctive bark of the exhaust beat. Now with a bronze medal, we have the Narray 4468 Mallard, and yes, it is my favorite famous locomotive, and that's Spencer's brother. The Mallard is one of the well-known Class A4 Pacifics designed by Sir Nigel Gresley, and holds the record for the fastest steam locomotive in the world. Mallard made the record on July 3, 1938, and was also designed for fast express passenger trains, hence the streamlining. Now with a silver medal, we have the only British Railway steam engine on the list, that's right. The BR Class 9F. Yes, it might be Murdoch's basis, but by God, it's even mightier than the LMS Stania Black 5. The Class 9F was the last in a series of standardized locomotive classes designed for British Railways during the 1950s, and was intended for use on fast, heavy freight trains over long distances. It was one of the most powerful steam locomotive types ever constructed in Britain, and successfully performed its intended duties. And with a golden medal we have the LMS Stania Class 8F. Now this may surprise you since 8 it's shorter than 9, but in my opinion, the 8Fs are the pinnacle of steam engines. Their design is so cool that it makes the 9F look weak. This engine is a class of steam locomotive designed for hauling heavy freight. 852 were built between 1935 and 1946 as a freight version of William Stania's successful Black 5, and the class saw extensive service overseas during and after the Second World War. You know, if doing this made me realize something, it's that if I keep doing like this, I might be luckier still with more views and subscriptors, and if you think I miss a particular locomotive, that's okay, there were hundreds of them. Now if you excuse me, I've more projects to do, but those are stories for another time.